我这个人呐，性情比较懒散，筋骨迟钝，皮肉松弛，头发和脸经常1个月、半个月不洗。如果不是身上发闷发痒，是绝不会洗澡的。小便也是，要憋到浑身颤抖，才愿意起身解决。
These ridiculous sentences are from a famous breakup letter in China's history. It was written by Ji Kang, a core figure of the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. The recipient of the letter is Shan Tao, the oldest member of the 7 sages of the bamboo grove.
你曾经对你叔父说，嵇康这人呢，是不会愿意出仕做官的。我视这为知己之言。可我最近倒是奇怪了，你是不是对我还是不够熟悉啊？我从河东回来，他们都对我说，你打算让我来接替你曾经的官职。此事最后虽未成功，却也算知道了。 你以往并非真正了解我。
At the time, Shan Tao had been promoted and had recommended Ji Kang to fill his former official position. Instead of feeling grateful to Shan Tao, Ji Kang wrote a breakup letter to Shan Tao. The Wei and Jin dynasties, running from the 2nd century to the 5th century, saw the most freedom of thought in China's history. The 7 sages of the bamboo grove were the best representatives of the period. The 7 talented men enjoyed themselves in nature, drank alcohol, composed verses, and even streaked. What they did would be considered out of line even today. The initiators of the 7 sages of the bamboo grove were Ji Kang and Shan Tao. Shan Tao was 20 years older than Ji Kang, yet he admired Ji Kang a lot. He extolled Ji Kang as majestically towering like a solitary pine tree. He told his wife that he had only 2 true friends, one of whom was Ji Kang.
你遇事善于应变，对人称赞多而批评少。我这人性格直爽，气量狭窄，对很多事情就是不能忍受。现在看来，只是很偶然跟你交上朋友罢了。
These words came as a huge blow to Shan Tao. Their more than 10 years' friendship came to an end. Shan Tao was a gentleman. He was the leading light of the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. According to the Book of Jin, he worked as an official in the Ministry of Personnel twice, and he was impartial. The men he selected and recommended were all capable, except one person. Shan Tao was strongly against appointing the person as an official, but the imperial court insisted. Later, this man was removed from office for taking bribes. On the contrary, Ji Kang was unrestrained and shrugged off proprieties. He was handsome and learned, but he didn't like taking baths. As a result, there were fleas all over his body. He had one unusual hobby: forging iron.
一只麋鹿，如果从小被捕来驯养，一定会服从主人的管教；但如果是长大后才被抓来，它一定会疯狂的反抗，想要挣脱绳索，即便赴汤蹈火也在所不惜。套上黄金的龙头，喂养精美的饲料，他一心思念的还是那茂林和青草。
Ji Kang compared his longing for freedom to a deer. But could the 7 sages of the bamboo grove get away from the secular world and find freedom? In 254, 14-year-old Cao Mao, Cao Cao's great-grandson, became the emperor. But the power of the state was already controlled by the Sima clan, who were awaiting an opportunity to usurp the throne. Everyone knew of their reckless ambition. Because of the contention for power, the Cao clan and the Sima clan were at daggers drawn. Caught between the two sides, many officials were having a bad time. Some of them chose to withdraw from officialdom and to live in solitude. The 7 sages of the bamboo grove were the most After Ji Kong's death, Shan Tao treated Ji Kong's children as his own. Helping one's friend to achieve what he wants at the moment of death shows the highest level of friendship. There is a kind of friend in whom you can see yourself. More than 1,000 years ago in the Tang Dynasty, there were two friends like this.
微之啊微之，分别已3载，收不到你的心2年。人生才多少时日，你我竟要这样蹉跎。你我一心，却分别两地，进不能相合，退不能相忘。千山阻隔，眼看就要老了。未知怎么办？天意如此，可怎么办？
In 817, Bai Juyi, who had been demoted to a post in Jiangzhou 3 years previously, wrote this letter to his friend, Yuan Zhen, who had suffered a similar fate. Yuan Zhen was demoted to a post in Tongzhou, Sichuan. By then, they had known each other for 15 years. In 802, 31-year-old Bai Juyi and 24-year-old Yuan Zhen got to know each other in the capital city of Chang'an. Both of them were here to sit an examination held by the Ministry of Personnel. In the following year, both of them passed the exam. They worked as editors at the Royal Library. In 4 years, the two exemplary students discovered something. They were like another self to each other. Both of them loved poems, especially the ones written by Du Fu. They loved the realism expressed in his poems. They wanted to be good officials who could benefit the people. In China's history of literature, Yuan Zhen and Bai Juyi were collectively known as Yuan Bai. Their biggest contribution was that they were pioneers in the field of literature, starting the poetry reform and innovation movement known as New Yuefu.
做教书郎的那些年，诗作足足有300-400首，拿出来给你看，说我虽写的工巧，却不够有作者气质。入朝为官以来，年龄渐长，经历的事情也越来越多。每每与人聊天，都在操心政事时局；次次看书读史，都想探求治国之道。这才明白，文章何为时而著，歌诗何为事而作。
In 806, their editorial postings expired. Both of them chose to take the exam aimed at selecting special talents. They passed the exam and entered officialdom. As a novice in officialdom, Yuan Zhen impeached bigwigs 7 times within several months. Similarly, Bai Juyi denounced the prime minister and reported governors of border provinces. The collection of the new Yuefu poems, compiled by the two, became popular among the people, as the poems reflected the sufferings of the people and the social ills. It caused quite a stir in the imperial court.
为之啊，古人说，不得用的时候就自我修行，得用的时候就要为天下人造福。我虽然不贤，也常常以这2句话为誓。大丈夫坚守的是圣贤大道，等待的是时机。 时机到来，就是腾云的龙，搏风的鹏，生机勃勃，勇往直前。
But their dreams were soon poems to each other, much more than the number of poems they wrote to their families. One day, Yuan Zhen came back home in tears. Over the course of 2 decades. For Bai Juyi, losing Yuan Zhen was like losing himself. 8 years after Yuan Zhen's death, Bai Juyi wrote a poem that would be passed down through the ages. You buried under the earth with mud eroding your bones. I living in the mortal world with my hair white as snow. There's another kind of friendship. 2 men could still be friends despite their different political stances. For example, Wang Anshu and Sima Guang both are high-ranking officials of the Song dynasty.
昨天收到您的来信，与您交往的日子虽久，但议论起政事来，意见常常不一致。这恐怕是因为我们所持的主张大多不同。想向您啰嗦几句，但终究您是不会接受的。
In 1067, Emperor Shenzong of the Song dynasty succeeded to the throne. Seeing the poor and weak country, the young emperor reinstated Wang Anshi to launch a major series of reforms. The reform measures were radical and of unprecedented scope. As a result, the reforms were acutely controversial and strongly opposed by many. His old friend, Sima Guang, was a leading figure in the opposing faction. Soon, the two were in deadlock. Sima Guang wrote to Wang Anshi, trying to persuade him to abandon the reform measures. But Wang didn't reply, because he knew himself and Sima Guang too well. He knew that he wouldn't change his ideas, and he knew that Sima Guang wouldn't be persuaded. It was only when he had received 3 letters from Sima Guang that he replied.
您认为我推行新法，削弱了官吏的职权，制造各种事端，侵占百姓财物，还拒绝接受不同意见，因而招致天下人的怨恨和诽谤。
Sima Guang was 2 years older than Wang Anshi. Both of them passed the highest imperial examination at the age of 21. Before Emperor Shenzong ascended the throne, both of them worked as officials, and they were good friends. Though both of them were learned, they had different characters. Wang Anshi was stubborn and radical, while Sima Guang was stable and sophisticated. Both of them supported reform, but their methods and ideas were different. The reform started, and Sima Guang adopted a wait-and-see attitude. Over the course of the following year, his attitude changed. The reform measures were so radical that they would lead to serious problems in the imperial court. He started to speak out against the reform. Wang Anshi wrote him a letter to explain his opinions.
我接受了皇帝的任命，修正国家的法令制度，再交给专职的官吏去执行。这不能算是削弱官吏的权力。实行历代贤君的政策，兴办对天下有利的事业，消除种种弊病，这不能算是制造事端。整顿财政，这也不能算是和百姓争夺财力。抨击不当的言论，驳斥无理之人，这也不能算是拒绝接受规劝吧。至于对我的诸多诽谤和怨恨，我早就料到了。
Wang Anshi and Sima Guang held utterly different political opinions. They even debated in the imperial court. Emperor Shenzong, who wanted to make a difference, supported Wang Anshi, so Sima Guang chose to quit his job.
我与你虽然想法不一致，但最终目的是一致的。你正在你的职位上实现你的理想，以拯救天下百姓。我已辞去我的职位，践行我的志向，以福泽天下苍生。这就是所谓和而不同。我把自己的想法讲给你，是尽朋友的道义。 舍弃还是采纳，全在你了。
Sima Guang lived in Luoyang, far away from the imperial court. He started to compose the Comprehensive Mirror in Aid of Governance, which would take him 15 years.
人们习惯于苟且偷安，得过且过，已不是一两天了。如果你责备我，是因为我任职这么久，没能为国家干一番大事业，让老百姓得到些好处，那么，我承认自己有罪。如果说我现在什么都不做，墨守前人的陈规旧法，那我不能认同。
5 years into the reform, a rare drought happened, and the people were thrown into great misery. The ministers submitted memorials to the throne to criticize Wang Anshi, and the Empress Dowager tearfully complained to the emperor about the reform. The radical reform couldn't go on anymore. That autumn, Wang Anshi was removed from his post, and the reform failed. "67-year-old Sima Guang was reinstated and put in an important position. 10 years later, Wang Anshi died in depression. Some people defamed him, but Sima Guang stopped them. In his heart, Wang Anshi was an upright and respectable man. As men of noble character, they coexisted in harmony, in spite of their different opinions. Their relationship was the same as what Wang Anshi had written about in the letter.
没有机会与你见面，但内心对你仰慕至极。
Taipei's Palace Museum houses the memorials with replies from the Qing Dynasty Emperor Kangxi. The most frequent sentence is, "Got it." One of them is special, as there's a red flower beside it. Standing behind the red flower is the friendship between the emperor and his childhood friend.
得疥疮的时候，不适合吃药。如果毒气侵入体内，有恶化成麻风病的危险，一定要用海水浸泡，其他治疗方法都不合适。小心啊，一定要小心。用土茯苓泡茶喝，直接吃也是好的。
These warm sentences are from the secret letter from Emperor Kangxi to his childhood friend Cao Yin. Cao Yin was the grandfather of Cao Xueqin, author of Dream of the Red Chamber. At the time, Cao Yin was the commissioner of imperial textiles in Jiangnin. He was also in charge of the salt administration in the regions south and north of the Huaihe River. This is Emperor Kangxi's reply to Cao Yin. It shows another side of the emperor. After Cao Yin became commissioner of the imperial textiles in Jianning, he and the emperor communicated via secret memorials. When the emperor was in a good mood, he would draw a red flower beside "Got it." This was a bonus for Cao Yin. Jianning is today's Nanjing. During the reign of Emperor Kangxi, there were 3 imperial textile bureaus in Jianning, Suzhou, and Hangzhou, headed by the one in Jianning. They provided silk for the royal family. Set up by the Imperial Household Department, they kept watch on the officials in the region south of the Yangtze River. The importance of this position shows Emperor Kangxi's trust in Cao Yin. Emperor Kangxi made 6 inspection trips to the south. He stayed in Cao Yin's home 4 times. In a career spanning over 30 years, Cao Yin always held important positions. He was in charge of silk and salt, supervised monetary production, escorted relief grain, and took charge of the construction of imperial palaces for short stays away from the capital. All these matters were highly important as far as the country was concerned.
你的奏折很及时，朕即刻赏赐你治疗疟疾的药。朕担心路上耽误时间，所以准许一马连夜送药。如果疟疾还没有转变成泻痢，就没有大碍；如果转变成痢疾，这个药啊就不管用了。南方的那些庸医，每次开药只开补药，误诊的人不计其数。 你们一定要小心。金鸡纳霜是专门治疗疟疾的药，只需2钱的量即可，和酒一起服用。如果药量不够，就再服1次。必须要注意的是，之后再服用，1钱或者8分的药量就足够了。连续服用2次，就可以药到病除。如果不是疟疾，就不能吃这个药。 万主万主，万主万主。
When Emperor Kangxi was 59 years old, Cao Yin caught a cold, and then it deteriorated into malaria. His brother-in-law, Li Xu, sent a secret memorial to the emperor, telling him about the illness of Cao Yin. After reading it, the emperor became deeply worried. He immediately ordered that the letter and medicine be sent to Cao Yin. But Cao died before he got the medicine. Because of his friendship with Cao Yin, the emperor gave Cao Yin's descendants special treatments after Cao's death. He ordered Cao Yin's son, Cao Yong, to take over his father's post. 1.5 years later, Cao Yong suddenly died. The emperor ordered Cao Fu, Cao Yin's nephew, to be Cao Yin's adopted son, and asked him to take over the post. In a reply to the young man, the emperor wrote lines like these.
你虽然还是个不懂事的孩子，但这无伤大雅。你的父亲为朕忙碌那么多年，所以直到现在，曹家都享有特殊的关照。你虽然不用管理地方事务，但也可以把你的所见所闻，大大小小，像你的父亲一样，写信告诉朕。这其中的是是非非呀，朕自有判断。哪怕讲个笑话，让你的老主子高兴一下也好啊。
After losing his friend, the emperor became lonely. When he reviewed the memorials, he must have had an impulse to draw a red flower beside "Got it." But his only childhood friend was gone, and no one would appreciate his red flower anymore. "1,500 kilometers is not, in fact, such a long distance. And one man never forgot his promise, not even after 20 years, showing that friendship transcends space and time.
继子啊，你平安吗？要是你能回来，回首前尘往事，你如何能够承受？昔日的朋友，如今已形同陌路，谁还能安慰你啊？
This letter was from Gu Zhenguan to his friend Wu Jiaoqian, who was living more than 1,000 kilometers away. While one of them was anxious in Beijing, the other was struggling to survive in Ningguta in Heilongjiang. Neither of them knew whether they would have a chance to meet again. Gu Zhenguan was born in Wuxi, Jiangsu. When he was young, he joined the famous literature society initiated by Wu Jiaoqian, who was from Wujiang. Wu was 6 years older than Gu, and they had different characters. Gu Zhenguan was modest and polite, while Wu Jiaoqian was obstinate and unrestrained. They appreciated each other and became close friends. No one expected that their life would change because of a case that shocked the whole country. In 1657, Wu Jiaoqian passed the provincial examination. Just as he was about to realize his ambition, the examination results were announced. When the list of successful candidates was published, some examinees thought the result was unfair, and they said the examiners took bribes and even allowed examinees to leaf through each other's papers. Cheating in examinations has been regarded as egregious behavior in all ages. Emperor Kangxi of the Qing dynasty was infuriated and ordered to investigate the matter. It turned out that some examiners had indeed taken bribes. This appalling case shocked the whole country. The following year, the imperial court held a re-examination in Beijing, and each examinee was watched by 2 guards armed with blades. The young and proud Wu Jiaoqian thought this was unfair on the innocent examinees, so he handed in a blank examination paper. What he never could have expected is the heavy price he would pay for this protest.
你在边塞已经20年了，我要像春秋时期的申包胥救楚国那样，实现自己的诺言。就算等到乌鸦变白，骏马长角，也一定要救你回来。
Emperor Kangxi ruled on the case. The property of Wu Jiaoqian's family was confiscated, and Wu was exiled to Ningguta, Heilongjiang. There he would stay for 23 years. Back then, being exiled to Ningguta was pretty much the same as being sentenced to death. Many exiles died before they reached the place. Even if they managed to get there, they couldn't survive the extreme cold. Gu Zhenguan promised Wu Zhaoqian that he would help him come back.
10年来，我辜负了你的深情厚谊，至今还未能帮你脱离苦海。我与你分别后，夫人也过世了。试问人生在世，到这步田地是何等凄凉！我也想将千万种怨恨向你倾诉啊。
Gu Zhenguan never forgot his promise. But this case was settled by Emperor Shunji himself, so no one dared question it. 3 years later, Emperor Kangxi ascended the throne, showing he had no intention of redressing it. Gu Zhenguan passed the provincial examination in 1666 and later became a low-ranking official. He tried to get some help from the powerful officials. Some people who used to be Wu Zhaoqian's friends now held important posts. Gu visited them one by one, but only to find none of them wanted to infuriate the emperor because of the case. People were cold and indifferent. This was a fact that was hard to change. In 1676, Gu Zhenguan was 39, while Wu Zhaoqian was 45. After spending 18 grueling years in Ninggu Ta, Wu Zhaoqian lost the hope of returning to his hometown.
塞外苦寒，一年四季都是风雪，边关不宁，剑鸣不断，哀甲泣血，孤身飘零，两鬓斑白。夫人病重，几个孩子也填不饱肚子。想想家乡的老母亲，还在孤零零地等我。相隔万水千山，终究是回不去了。
Events took a favorable turn that year. Gu Zhenguan was recommended to a teaching position in the home of Na Lan Mingchu, a powerful official. The Na Lan clan was connected with the royal family by blood. All of a sudden, Gu Zhenguan saw hope. He then became a good friend of Na Lan Xingde, Na Lan Mingchu's eldest son. This young nobleman read the letter from Gu Zhenguan to Wu Zhaoqian and became touched by the friendship between them. He promised to Gu Zhenguan that he would get Wu Zhaoqian out of that place in 10 years. He knew this was not a small thing, and he didn't dare to act unadvisedly. Life is short. Gu Zhenguan hoped Na Lan Xingde could do it in 5 years. Na Lan Xingde promised he would turn to his father for help and try to send a memorial to the emperor.
你生于辛未年，而我生于丁丑。
It reads, "The place where Gu Zhenguan kneeled in order to save Wu Zhaoqian." At the moment, he realized how hard Gu Zhenguan had tried in order to get him out of that place. None of the inmates of Wu Zhaoqian managed to return to their hometown. Life is short. Who would be willing to spend 20 years waiting for the return of a friend? Even long distances can't get in the way of friendship. Even different ambitions and different goals in life can't get in the way of mutual appreciation. Not even the biggest obstacles can prevent a warm welcome. Life is long. A true friend makes life worthwhile.